Hello everybody again, welcome to Nifty 50 Running. I'm Jonathan Walton, my brother Mark Walton, who also posts videos on this site. We're both runners in our 50s, and this channel's aimed at runners 50 plus, or anybody else who is interested in running, whether it be starting from scratch, or if you've been doing it a while, you might be up for some ideas of trying different stuff, and yeah, we're here to help and give advice, from our own experiences. What I'll cover first of all is my training update, and then we're going to talk about iron and the use of iron for running. So first of all, my training update. As you know, I've been injured. I had a stress fracture, or if you've been watching you'll know. I had a stress fracture in my fibula, right hand side of my ankle. So I've been out for about a month, doing lots of walking, frustratingly. But I don't mind walking actually, it's quite enjoyable, especially today when it was a nice day. From my last training update, I've done two 45-minute walks, which were nice and easy, and I didn't experience any pain. Also pressing on the ankle where the bone is, I couldn't feel any pain. So then I went out for my first run in a while. I did a walk run. So I normally do a 2-hour walk, but this time I implemented a little bit of running. What I did was walked down the hills along the flats and then ran up the hills, so there was less stress on the leg, and I felt alright. Got back after me 2 hours, so I did loops around my local park, and then felt okay, and then I put a bit of pressure on it to give it a bit of a test, and I could feel a little bit of pain, so probably a little bit too much too early. So it's back to walking. Last 2 days I've done another two 45-minute walks around the local park, and tomorrow I'll just do a long 2-hour walk. Okay, it feels fine when I'm walking, so at least I'm getting some sort of aerobic benefit, especially if I'm putting some hills in and I go at quite a bit of a power walk, so quite a brisk pace. So it is what it is. I'll just have to bear with it and then see how it goes. I think I'll let it ease off, and then once I can't feel any pain, I'll give it a few more days before I try doing any running again, and I'll probably go for the treadmill this time. Okay, on to what I'm going to cover today: iron and running. This is from my own experiences. I've done a little bit of looking into it in depth. I've had my own issues with being low on iron. Basically, when I was running quite high mileage, I was on a vegetarian diet, and even though I took iron supplements when I got a blood test, I was low on iron. Okay, so I had to change my diet a little bit, and that brought my iron levels back up. So this is from my own experience. An insight into it then: our muscles need oxygen to run better. Red blood cells carry that oxygen to the muscles. So the more red blood cells you have, the more oxygen you're going to get to your muscles, and then the more efficiently and faster you'll be able to run. Quite straightforward. I'll try and keep it as simple as possible. What makes those red blood cells? It's iron. Other things that'll help is aerobic exercise, and that's going to increase your heart and your lungs, your capillaries, which in turn is going to increase your blood volume over time. So if you do a decent aerobic base, say 8 weeks, nice easy low heart rate running, probably a decent sort of mileage for the week, that's going to increase your aerobic fitness. Another thing is drinking lots of water with a little bit of salt. Now the thing with salt, I've experimented with salt as well. What you find is if you're on a high carb diet, you don't really need as much salt. The carbohydrates will hold more water, so if you're having salt as well, it's going to have a double effect, and then you're probably going to hold too much water if you have too much salt. If you're on a low carb diet, because you're working off fat holds less water than carbohydrates, so you need a little bit of salt just to make it easier to hydrate your body, and it's going to help with recovery as well. If you're going to the extreme and you're on a keto diet, you're going to need a lot more salt, and I've experienced this. When you're getting I used to get night cramps, so I had to up my salt intake, and that got rid of those night cramps. Okay, so it's just playing about with it a little bit, but I just take a little bit of salt with my meals now. When I've been really low carb, I used to put it in my water, but it does build up your blood volume. If you imagine you go into hospital, if you're like dehydrated, you've lost a bit of blood, to increase your blood volume they put you on a drip, which is saline, basically salt and water. Okay, so it will have a decent effect. Iron intake comes from eating meat, eating iron-rich, sort of like green vegetables, eating iron-fortified cereals, so like your cornflakes, that sort of thing, or taking an iron supplement. Okay, different forms. It comes in two different forms. It's called heme iron and non-heme iron. So your heme iron is more easily absorbed by the body. Okay, so that's the one that you really want to go for if you're low on iron. And if you were low on iron, you probably your doctor would give you a bit of advice on this. A lot of the time they just they'll recommend that you take a supplement so it can build up a little bit quicker. But it does take time to build up, so don't expect things to happen overnight if you are low on iron. And then you've got your non-heme iron, which is poorly absorbed by the body. And I'll just cover the two of those briefly. Okay, so your best forms of heme iron are basically lean red meat. Okay, so they're easily absorbed by the body. When I say easily absorbed, your body's limited to how much iron it can actually absorb. So I'd say maximum, you're looking at sort of like 30% of the iron content that you're taking in, that your body's actually absorbing it. If you're on a lower level, depending on what food you're eating, it's going to be a lot less. But they're the best forms, lean red meat. Your non-heme iron is poorly absorbed, and that comes from your cereals, your beans, and then sort of like your green sort of vegetables, stuff like spinach. Still good sources, but it's just very difficult for the body to absorb it. I've seen a few things saying that if you take vitamin C with it, it'll be a lot better, but it's not as good as your red meat, but it will give you some benefit. Another thing to bear in mind, if you're drinking tea or coffee with your meals, that's also going to reduce your iron absorption even further. So quite an important point there. Your requirements of iron for the over 50s, it's roughly about 8 milligrams. Okay, and you can get this from your food. If you eat the right sort of foods, if you eat healthy, you can get that from your foods that you eat. For females below 50, because of menstruation, they're going to require a lot more iron. Okay, but when they start getting over 50, it's around about the same as the males. Okay, so you're looking at about 8 milligrams for our sort of age category. Another thing to bear in mind, there's a lot of things that deplete this iron, and that's probably why I was quite low on it, in the past. Runner's foot strike, especially if you're doing 100, 120 miles a week like I was on the roads. it's going to damage the red blood cells, and it does. That's what happens. So runners need to need slight, a lot more iron than a sedentary sort of person, depending on how much running you do, and also what surfaces you run on. So like myself, if I was running 100 miles a week on concrete every day, yeah, I can see where that iron's gone. So vary the surfaces, do a little bit of off-road. It's a bit less stress on the body as well. Things like the track and also the treadmill. Other things, dehydration causes red blood cells to become more concentrated. Okay, so if you're running a marathon, you're getting quite dehydrated on a hot day, your blood concentration is going to be a lot less. So there's obviously less liquid within your blood, and you get what's called, I think they call it sticky blood, something like that. So that's why you need to keep well hydrated, and things like your electrolytes. But it's no good taking electrolytes if you're not drinking loads of water as well. And to do that in a race, what I find is it swishes round in my stomach quite a lot. So I don't like to drink much water during a race. I like to rehydrate and taking my carbs, taking my salt, and rehydrate the days leading up to my marathon, even if it's on a hot day. And then I can pretty much run a marathon without any, hardly any drinking. Okay, and I've done it for, my last ultra I did. I only had like 500 millilitres of water because I had carbohydrates, a little bit of salt, and then loads of water. I was drinking like a gallon a day just about, but I felt really good, and it helped, it worked for me. Okay, so just one thing to bear in mind, if you're dehydrated, your red blood cells are going to become more concentrated, and that's going to make it more difficult for the heart to pump that blood round, because it's less fluid. Taking all them points on board then, the best sort of practice is to keep hydrated with water. Okay, remember the tea and coffee with your meals, that's going to deplete you. Eat lean red meat. Have a pinch of salt with your food, but don't go overboard with the salt, otherwise you'll just end up like a running bag of water. So just limit the salt intake. I just have a little pinch on my food. Sometimes when it's during the summer months, I sometimes put in a little bit in some water as well. Especially with me being quite low carb. Okay, just to keep my water retention up a little bit. Vary running surfaces. So now and again, opt for some softer options. So track or a bit of off-road. I've been guilty of this in the past, like I've said, just running on the roads all the time, and it had obviously a long-term effect when I got blood tested and my iron levels were low. If you're a non-meat eater, you can still go for your green sort of vegetables, but you might have to supplement with an iron supplement. It's probably better to have a liquid iron supplement. Like I mentioned, when I was like vegetarian, I was taking an iron supplement in tablet form, but it still won't get my iron levels up. Somebody mentioned to me it's something to do with you should be eating proper foods, because the whole process starts when you start chewing, and the enzymes in your mouth start the full process as it's going through your body. So I don't know, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but it does sound quite convincing to myself, so I opted for putting some meat in my diet. And I don't really, you don't have to have loads. It could be 3 small portions a week, so you don't have to have it like every day. So that's it on iron I hope you've all got a little bit of information from that. Just thinking about suggestions from people's comments. Thank you for all your comments. Hope you're enjoying this channel. We had a suggestion about doing a video on strength training, which I will look at doing in the future. I've also mentioned it to Mark, my brother. He's going to look into that as well. And I think for my next video I'm going to cover the sort of like stretching routine. So I do quite a lot of dynamic stretches. So I don't really do that many static ones. So I'll go into a little bit more detail with that, and I'll probably put a couple of videos on there of the actual stretches I do, so everybody can see how they work, and give them a go. But that's what we're looking at for the next one. So that's all from me. Happy running. See you all later from Nifty 50 Running. Bye.